I feel like the New York Jets and maybe the New York Jets fan base itself are kind of at a crossroads right now going into this 2025 offseason. I feel like a lot of people think that the Jets are just a few pieces and a head coach and an entire coaching staff away from being a very, very competent football team, because they do. It's true. They do have a ton of talent. And then other teams, other people think that the Jets should just kind of, tear it down, cut a lot of their veterans, trade off a lot of their pieces, and just kind of start a rebuild from scratch, from the bottom, with a competent organization. What you risk there is losing top-end talent, that you're going to keep originally to try and build around, because once those guys become free agents or become contract extension eligible, they're not going to want to stay. So I think the Jets really should kind of get rid of the dead weight. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. This is the top 10 free agent targets of the offseason for the New York Jets. Now, mind you, this is my top 10 targets. So if we go over to the next slide, the reason being for some of these targets is the Jets have 39 or can have up to $39,707,788. Now, this number is coming from Michael Pallas, Jets Cap on Twitter. If you guys are on Jets Twitter, you know exactly who Michael Pallas is. I did get these numbers from him. He is a self-proclaimed cap expert, but the numbers do make sense. So this is with cuts, and this is with a restructure from Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams' contract is really the only contract that the Jets have beyond this year that can be restructured and create really any sort of cap space. And I believe it could be restructured for around $8 million in cap space. So that does help for sure. So about $40 million in cap space is a decently significant enough number to land a big time free agent or two. So really, the way that I went about this is, as we're going to see, there are a couple of bargain, maybe really high upside free agent signings that we make here. But then, like I said at the beginning here, this is my 10 free agents that I would look to get to, because just because you have $39.7 million in cap space doesn't mean that you have to use $39.7 million in cap space. So, if they want to make some lower profile signings, really attack some areas of need, I wouldn't be opposed to that for the new general manager and for hopefully head coach Aaron Glenn. So we'll take a look at these free agents now. So starting at 10, we got offensive tackle Jaylon Moore from San Francisco. He has been the backup to Trent Williams for a few years now. His 2020, so I went with 2025 age because that will be the year, that will be the age that they start the contract on. So this is all researched, and this is exactly what they'll be. Obviously, I went after younger free agents, kind of more sort of long-term guys, high upside guys. So Jaylon Moore is a name that probably a lot of you guys aren't familiar with, but he did play a significant role on the offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers this year. He also did play a decent amount of snaps last year as well. Someone that has a ton of experience on the left side, which is great because he got to learn from Trent Williams for the last, three plus years, I would say. And then he had some starting experience on the right side last year as well. So this is someone that has basically been primarily a backup his entire career, but he actually had some decent grades this year in run blocking and pass blocking. Same thing with pass blocking last year as well. So this is someone that I view as more of a swing tackle, someone that, every year that we watch the New York Jets, we get excited about these offensive linemen, and then they wind up getting hurt, and then we have next to no depth. So maybe my number 10 signing, or what I would like to see done, is someone that's more of a swing tackle that could step in and start on the right or on the left. But I do think it's necessary, with Carter Warren still being basically a question mark at this point in his career, and Max Mitchell just really not being that great. Morgan Moses is a free agent. Tyron Smith is a free agent. Olu looked good at times, but he might be better suited to go on the right side. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think Jaylon Moore would add a ton of value. Now, again, just to preface this, these are guys that I would suggest. This isn't my ideal offseason because I'm going to be handing out quite a bit of money here. So this isn't a collective 10 free agents they should sign. This is 10 free agents that I think they should look to sign. So just some clarification if you guys are confused on that. But going over to number 9 is going to be a familiar face here. Folorunso Fatukasi, I think, is a player that could make a lot of sense for the New York Jets on a short-term deal. So as we all know, we're all Jets fans here. The Jets were horrendous against the run this year. And, Quinnen Williams getting double-teamed, there's only so much he could do. He puts up great numbers while getting double-teamed, basically on about 70 to 75% of the snaps he does play. So he needs a battery mate that could stop the run. And I mean, Foley's last year with the Jets, I believe he had an 89.3 run grade, which was second among all defensive tackles. Then he cashed in on a big-time deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, I do know he is with the Houston Texans right now. The only picture I could find, a decent picture of Folorunso Fatukasi, was the picture of him in the Jaguars uniform. But yeah, kind of coming off of a couple down years, I'll be quite honest with you. His last year with the Jaguars, he was not graded out very well in pass rush or run blocking or run defending at all. And then this past year, in relatively limited snaps and in more of a rotational role for Houston, he was okay. I'm just kind of bringing him in as just rotational depth, someone that could offer a lot of experience and can step in and stop the run when necessary. That's basically what I'm bringing him in for. 1 year, $3 million, I think would suffice at age 30. I really don't see the problem any Jets fan would have with a reunion with Folorunso Fatukasi. He was a great player when he was in green and white, and hopefully they could kind of rekindle a little bit of that talent and, you know, maybe turn into a little bit of a longer term deal. But yeah, with the depth that the Jets currently have at the defensive tackle spot, I would look to not only draft maybe 2 defensive tackles, maybe even 3, but maybe bring in 1 or 2 through free agency too. I mean, the depth, the position was horrible to begin with, but the depth just is not good going forward as well. So at number 8, I have Josh Palmer here. So, you know, like I said before, with the amount of money that the Jets do have and with the amount of needs that they do have, I don't think it is worth going after someone like T. Higgins. I don't think it's worth going after someone like Chris Godwin, who's basically going to take up the majority of your cap space. So Josh Palmer, I think, is a perfect fit for the Jets. 26 years old around the time of the start of the season next year. I think a 3-year, $24 million contract would suffice for Josh Palmer, someone that I fully believe that the Jets should look to draft someone like Ted McMillan at number 7 overall. So if they do cut Devontae Adams, obviously they don't trade Garrett Wilson. You have Garrett Wilson as your 1, Ted McMillan as your 2, and then someone like Josh Palmer as your 3 that will split time with Xavier Gipson and Malachi Corley as well. I think that would be an excellent addition to the wide receiving core. Someone that kind of gets like pushed down the depth chart a little bit, but when he's called upon to start, he's actually been quite productive for Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers. He's someone that I don't think has had over 700 receiving yards in a season, but then again, he's always usually been the wide receiver 3 for the most part on an offense. So I think bringing in Josh Palmer to be that young wide receiver 3, if you do draft, you know, Ted McMillan or maybe a Luther Burden, if you trade down something like that, then you're looking at, you know, your top 3 being possibly Garrett Wilson, Ted McMillan, Josh Palmer. I feel like that's a very formidable 3 for whoever's playing quarterback in 2025 for the Jets. At 7, I have Baron Browning. Baron Browning is a player that I have admired for quite some time now. If you look at his career numbers themselves, they're not going to totally blow you away. He had 9.5 sacks in about 3 years with the Denver Broncos. A lot of it was a rotational role, though. You know, with Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, they've played a ton of rotation. They love to rotate their outside linebackers. And then he did get traded to the Arizona Cardinals, and he only had 2 sacks in 8 games for the Arizona Cardinals. But this is a player that I'm more than comfortable banking off the upside. Again, 26 years old. He's gonna be basically your speed rusher off the edge. He's gonna kind of take the place of what Hassan Reddick was supposed to be for the New York Jets this year. 3 years, $33 million. You might say, well, that's a little too rich for our blood. That might be true, but you're going to have to pay these guys. I mean, Baron Browning is someone that sacks aren't everything. If you look at his overall numbers, he is a very, very good player. I don't know why part of his head is also taken off here in this picture. That's pretty funny. I didn't notice that before when I was making these graphics. But $11 million for an edge rusher that's going to be basically just an edge rusher, I'm more than happy with paying, especially since he's going to be 26 years old. So, you know, 3 years in Denver, you know, 3.5 really, half a season in Arizona. He did have a down year. This is probably a higher projection for a contract than I'd say that he'll get. I just like to highball it a little bit just to kind of cover all my bases, but I'm thinking somewhere a 3 or 4 year deal, somewhere between $8-12 million a year will probably get the job done for Baron Browning. And you know, that's something that I think with the uncertainty of Jermaine Johnson coming back from a ruptured Achilles, with Will McDonald having a really good second year, but kind of being non-existent for a little bit of it. You know, he started off like gangbusters, then he kind of disappeared a little bit, then had a resurgence, then kind of disappeared towards the end of the season again. So we need more consistency off the edge, and I think Baron Browning is a consistent edge presence for really anyone that will sign him. Hopefully the New York Jets. At number 6, I have maybe an outside the box one here. I think Tyrel Dodson is someone that I'm very interested in. If you guys know anything about me, if you guys know anything about my channel and the previous content that I used to do, what draft stuff, I value interior offensive linemen and linebackers probably higher than any other YouTuber you'll see. I think those guys are the engines of both sides of the ball that don't get enough love. If you get a good linebacker on a team, look at what Jamien Sherwood did, basically stepping in for C.J. Mosley this year. He was a revelation, and really this is more of a signing if they don't re-sign Jamien Sherwood. I think Dodson is someone that kind of bounced around. He was on the Buffalo Bills. He started off this year with the Seahawks, got cut, really found his footing with the Miami Dolphins. He had a sensational year for them. Fantastic coverage linebacker. This is someone that I think if Jamien Sherwood doesn't come back, if he does find a deal somewhere else, Dodson could be that player that'll probably get similar money to Jamien Sherwood. I know Sherwood is 24, Dodson's 27, so that could factor in a decision, maybe, Jamien Sherwood getting a longer contract offer from a different team. He's my priority. Let's get that straight. Jamien Sherwood is, if there was one player I would want the Jets to retain that's an unrestricted free agent, it would be Jamien Sherwood. I think he was fantastic. I think he's finally kind of embraced that hybrid safety linebacker role. Fantastic pursuit. Just a great all-around player. But even if they do re-sign Jamien Sherwood, I think Dodson is someone that I would look to bring in anyway, because then you'd have Quincy Williams, Jamien Sherwood, and Tyrel Dodson. That's got to be one of the best coverage linebacking cores in the entire NFL. So I know that the Jets truly don't really like to spend a lot of money on their linebackers, besides for C.J. Mosley historically being like the one exception, but I would seriously consider Tyrel Dodson to kind of round out that linebacking core. And really, that was, if it wasn't for Jamien Sherwood, that the front seven would be way worse than it already was. But get younger, get more athletic, get guys that can cover. I do think C.J. Mosley is going to be a cap casualty. I'd be very surprised to see him back in a Jet uniform next year. Get younger, get more athletic at the position. That's just my sentiment here. At number 5, I have D.J. Jones. Again, talking about the defensive line here. D.J. Jones is someone that maybe not a lot of you people are familiar with, and that's fine, because a lot of defensive tackles that play nose tackle or play that 0 tech or 1 tech don't get a lot of love. And D.J. Jones has been an integral part of the Denver Broncos' success this year. And 30 years old, coming off of a very fine season for them. 2 years, $24 million, $12 million a year. Think about it like this. You paid $7.5 million for whatever the heck Javon Kinlaw did for the Jets this year. I wouldn't mind paying, a little less than double for DJ Jones. That he is going to stop. I believe he is second in the NFL in run stops, and I believe he's the second or third highest graded defensive tackle when it comes to stopping the run this year. A fantastic player that I think that whoever the GM of the Jets should look to bring in. The defensive line really does need a complete overhaul. That was one thing with Joe Douglas that I was really disappointed in, was his dismantling of the defensive line this offseason. I really do think that hindered the Jets' ability on defense this past season, but I don't want to rehash that. But DJ Jones, a fantastic run stuffer, someone again that I think would be really great next to Quinnen Williams in a 4-3 defense. So I would definitely look to sign DJ Jones, someone like that, a run stopper. You need a run stopping defensive tackle that the Jets clearly did not have this year, or haven't had in quite a while, because Solomon Thomas has been getting far too many starts for the New York Jets the last few years. At number 4, I have Patrick Mekari here. So obviously, if you couldn't tell, I love to bolster both sides of both lines, offensive and defensive line. The game is still won in the trenches, people. But Patrick Mekari is someone that legitimately has starting experience all across the offensive line. So if I'm giving Mekari 3 years, $30 million at age 28, I'm fully expecting him to start at one of my offensive line spots. And I do believe that if he is brought in, this is someone that's probably going to start at right tackle. I think you give the keys to Olu at left tackle. You let him kind of figure it out. I know a lot of fans are kind of worried about how he does against speed rushers. I think he got much better as the season went along before he landed on IR. I think Mekari would be a fantastic player on the other side. He's a good player all around. Like I said, he plays guard. He's played center before as well. Really, the last couple of years has kind of stuck out there at the tackle position. So I think this is someone I would really like to bring, kind of like, he's not the upper echelon of free agent offensive linemen, but it's kind of like a John Simpson signing, where like Simpson got what did he get? Did he get, what, 3 years, 24 million? Kind of flew under the radar as like a really, really savvy business move by Joe Douglas. So again, picking from the Baltimore Ravens, John Simpson was arguably the Jets' best offensive lineman this year. Mekari is someone that I think that if he gets consistent starting role, I think he'll be fantastic and he will excel. And I think the Jets would be more than willing to spend $10+ million a year on an offensive lineman to kind of seal one of those tackle positions. So Mekari, I think, is very much in play for the Jets here. Rounding out the top three, I have Carlton Davis. Now, this is kind of purely based on the fact that I think Aaron Glenn is going to be the Jets' new head coach. This is you need a boundary corner desperately. Carlton Davis is someone that just proved that he could play in an Aaron Glenn system. So, it's kind of rule of thumb. You see a lot of role players, a couple starters usually follow suit if they're free agents and follow their defensive coordinator over to wherever they coached beforehand. Because look at Robert Saleh. He brought over countless San Francisco 49ers. I would love to see Carlton Davis come over and play for the Jets. Sauce Gardner and Carlton Davis on the outside will be a great 1-2 punch, arguably probably better than DJ. Well, DJ Reed was pretty bad this year, but that would be a great boundary tandem on the outside. He's someone that can play man. Obviously he could play man coverage. He just played in Aaron Glenn system where I believe it was a 52% press man. That's what he played for the most part. I could be wrong on those numbers, but something in the lines of, I believe he played 52% of the snaps, either in man or in press man. So he is a man cover corner. He knows how to play in this system. 3 years, $45 million. It's just going to be the going rate for someone that's probably one of the better cornerbacks on the market. Will just turn 28 at the end of 2024. So he's going to be fresh throughout the entire year at 28 years old. Usually once corners start to hit that 29, 30 range, I start to get a little worried about their legs. But here I think Carlton Davis will be more than fine, and I'm perfectly fine spending $15 million a year on a boundary corner that the Jets desperately need here. And at number 2, I got Alaric Jackson here. Maybe, again, someone that's kind of like an unsung hero for a playoff team. But Alaric Jackson has been fantastic for the LA Rams the last couple seasons. Jackson is a signing that I would think that if the Jets were to make... Now, this is a massive deal. 4 years, $72 million. You're looking at, $18 million a year. But he's going to get left tackle money. That's where he's played his entire career. He's played very well his entire career at left tackle. Last year was having a season for the ages before I believe it got cut short. This year, he was very, very good as well. This is someone that, if the Jets do bring him in, that fully tells me that they are looking to move Olufashinu over to the right side. But can you imagine bringing Alaric Jackson in, having him at 27 years old, play for 3 or 4 years on the left side, then you have Olufashinu on the right? I feel like that would just be fantastic. He could even be more expensive than this, to be quite honest with you. But, this is just kind of like a ballpark estimate, these projected contracts that I have here. But, man, this would be a huge, huge addition to the offensive line for whoever's playing quarterback if the Jets could land someone like Jackson. But really, I have him in here as this is a very unlikely signing. But in the off chance that the Jets do splurge big time and get a left tackle of the future, I do think that signals the fact that they think Olu is probably better suited to be a right tackle at the NFL level. And then finally here, Jevon Holland. This would be the signing of the season. PFF has him as the 3rd highest rated free agent in the entire NFL. I think 4 years, $68 million, maybe closer to that $70 million range, getting him for, 16? That's not right. Whatever the money is, I'm no good at math, but it's funny because I put these contracts together too, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that sounds about right. No, that's about $17 million a year. There we go. I knew I was going to get it at some point. 17.5 million if you go up to $70 million, but he's more than worth it. 27 years old. He can play in the box. He's great in coverage. He's just all around a fantastic safety. And I was jealous of the Miami Dolphins when they took him in the 2nd round out of Oregon a few years back. I knew he was going to be a great player. He is a great player. He hits free agency at age 25, which not a lot of guys get to do, especially at the level of play that he's at. So he's going to command a tremendous salary. But honestly, if the Jets walk away with someone like Alaric Jackson and Jevon Holland as their only 2 really big-time signings, I'd be more than happy with that. But Jevon Holland, the Jets defensive backs have been brutal this year for the most part. The safety position, I don't remember the last time the Jets really had, I'm guessing, 2017 through 2019, I guess I'd say, when Jamal Adams was playing really good ball and Marcus May was a fine, number 2 behind him. Jevon Holland coming in would immediately transform the secondary back into what it was the last couple of years. He's a fantastic player all the way around, and I would love to see him in green and white this offseason. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is my top 10 free agent targets for the 2025 offseason for the New York Jets. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please leave a like, please share, please subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.